welcome to Fraggle Talk, the unofficial Fraggle Rock podcast brought to you by toughpicks.com. This is the podcast where we cover Fraggle Rock back to the rock, episode by episode, along with the talented producers, performers, writers, and builders who help put it together. I'm your host, silly creature Joe Hennis. Today, we are talking about episode 3, the Merggle Moon Migration, in which Mokey ignores the facts and follows her guts, and we miss out on the Merggles dance party. I'm sure it was great. Today, we'll be chatting with 3 folks responsible for the writing of the show. No, I don't mean Traveling Matt's postcards. Our first guest has written and or produced episodes of New Girl, American Dad, and one of my all-time non-Henson favorites, Community. We are pleased to welcome executive producer and writer Alex Cuthbertson. Hello, Alex.
Hey, good to be. I actually do write Uncle Matt's postcards, so I just want to be totally accurate.
I meant like the penmanship of his postcards.
Oh no, I do it all. I'm
Great.
Yeah, I'm just sitting right off screen, handwriting each one. Nice to meet you. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. Our second guest has almost the exact same credits as Alex, having written and produced a whole bunch of familiar TV shows that I just mentioned. What a coincidence. We are pleased to welcome another executive producer and writer, Matt Fusfeld. Hey, Matt.
Wait, hi, Alex. You were on those things too?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of odd that we never.
What seasons were you there?
Ships in the night. Is that the expression?
Incredible.
Oh my goodness. No. Hello. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here. Our third, and sorry, Alex and Matt, most exciting guest is one of the co-creators of the original Fraggle Rock.
I'll take it. She's very exciting. That's fine.
She is very exciting. Get ready for this, folks. She has written over a dozen episodes of Fraggle Rock, including other Henson projects like Tale of the Bunny Picnic, a few episodes of Sesame Street, Ghost of Fafnir Hall, The Animal Show, a ton of storybooks, and a lot more. She serves as the consulting producer of Back to the Rock, and she's the writer of this episode that we're going to be talking about in just a few minutes. We are extremely pleased to welcome Jocelyn Stevenson. Hello, Jocelyn.
Hello, Joe. And hello, Alex and Matt. So,
Hi, Jocelyn.
Thank you for that intro. That was nice.
Of course, it really is such a treat to have you here. I've been a huge fan of your work for my entire life, and just to have you here on this podcast, talking to you directly it's a real treat.
Thanks. Anytime.
So, Jocelyn, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Were you familiar with Fraggle Rock before joining Back to the Rock?
That was the first question I asked her too. I was like, "What do you know about this show, Jocelyn?"
Yeah, and I had the I think audacity to tell Alex and Matt that I was declaring that I was naming myself the essence checker in the writer's room, because I thought essence would need to be checked. Mm-hmm. and that I was qualified to do that. It was a term that Jim Henson used to use for a puppet builder called Don Celine, and Don was able to just look at a Muppet and he could just tweak an eye, and it would suddenly go from just being the sock with some stuff on it to being a Muppet. And Jim called that essence checking. So so I actually, it's kind of cheeky that I did that, but I thought, no.
I thought it was very well described and warranted.
Just to remind them what we were all thinking when we were doing it. And anyway, the essence was checked. They did a great job. It's great. I'm so happy with this series. Who could do this? It's really hard.
It seemed hard. And like you said, the essence is there. That's the thing that I think all the fans are really picking up on is it's not just, oh, hey, what if it's the same Fraggle characters doing new things? It feels like Fraggle Rock. All the things that were important to us. Mm-hmm.
Really satisfying to have that feedback from fans. Really satisfying.
It was really satisfying. It was scary. I think it was like, that was I think the number one thing that we were all sort of like worried about as the show, we worked on the show, we all collectively worked on it for so long. So when it finally went out into the world, there was that little pause, that moment where we were wondering if people were going to respond to it in sort of the way that we intended, which is that it's like a loving continuation, more than a reboot or a rethinking of the series. And it was really satisfying and awesome and heartwarming that was the response.
Really? Well, you did a good job.
That's what I'm saying.
You all did a good job.
Such a good job.
Well, I was in the room because I'm in the UK, in the room, and they were all in LA. So for me, the the day started at 5:30 in the evening. So I was in the writer's room from 5:30 to 8:30, not my peak time, but never mind. And I was there for the first 3 weeks. And when Alex and Matt asked me to write one of the first 4 episodes, I can't, oh God, I was so happy. It was just great to be asked. And so yeah, so I mean, I was only there for a little while, and I was involved in the first 7 or 8 scripts, maybe. I saw.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think ultimately you were there for more than a month, between sort of getting the show up and running and then writing your first episode and getting into the sort of process for that. And to give Jocelyn a deeply felt, not to use a Muppet pun, deeply felt compliment. Jocelyn came in and was in every way just fraggly, was open-minded, open-hearted, did not sort of try to keep the show in any particular space. I think that we were always really committed to making sure the essence felt, correct, and that it felt like Fraggle Rock, but Jocelyn was never scolded us to not try new things. I think because I don't know, like, I don't want to speak for you, but it seems like your experience writing the original was that you guys were constantly inventing and being open and feeling, new things happen.
Yeah, it was too bad because we couldn't carry on. Oh, well, we couldn't meet each other for one thing. And then the writers couldn't be on the set. That to me was one of the sad, because of COVID and how it all worked. I mean, there's no noticeable effect. That's just magic to be able to do that. But the room felt very much like, the way it felt when we were doing we were all in the, and I kept, we kept reminding, we were all in the service of the best idea. And Matt and Alex know how to run a writer's room. I can tell you that for nothing. And they kept steering us there. And we didn't always agree, did we? Sometimes I said to you, I didn't like that. And you said, oh, okay.
We said, we're doing it anyway.
No, you did not.
Do you have any examples? I want to know what the fights were about. Who won?
Oh, I can actually tell you when because of my schedule, I hope you guys don't mind me telling this, but I'm going to. Because of my schedule, I couldn't be in the writer's room all the time, so that when the rewriting was going on, I wasn't there. And so I think part of it was that putting Fade in for the first time at the top of a Fraggle script for the first time in 40 years was mind-blowing, I have to tell you. And I was scared because I didn't have Jerry Jewell there and Larry Merkin, my creative pals that I had all through the original series. And Matt and Alex, then they rewrote my first episode, and I had to tell them, I really don't like this. Do you remember that, you guys?
I remember. I remember all.
I really don't like this. And so then we talked, and they were like, okay. And we talked about it. No, what was really interesting was, because this is how great they are, they'd already distributed it the way it had to be. The system is different than what we did in the original series. You had so many more people giving you notes than we ever did. We had never had one note from HBO or the CBC, not one. Right. And you guys, never mind. So they had all sorts of notes coming in, and they distributed the script. And then when they came back to me and they said, you know what, everything, because I sent you notes, didn't I? I wrote notes and sent, and they said, everything that you've said, other people have said too. And so the second draft that we all talked about, the second draft they did was so good that, and so much of it, the funny parts were theirs. They made it so much funnier that I'm very happy to have my name on it.
Well, I think it was especially being one of the first episodes that we did for the season, there was a lot of still finding the voice of the show. And obviously Matt and I come from a certain background, and we were kind of tonally, I guess, zoning in on what we wanted to do with the show and with sort of the pace of it. And still sort of finding some of the little character beats that we wanted to kind of employ for the rest of the season. And Matt and I come from really just half-hour comedies. We've always been in half-hour comedy rooms. And I think to what Jocelyn was saying is that we always sort of had it kind of beat into us this idea that nothing was ever done. Like you write a draft, you turn it in, you may be in love with certain parts of it or hate certain parts of it, but it's sort of like not to worry, because then the room takes over. And I think we're really like big believers in the room. So we take drafts everybody reads them, everybody pitches, everybody contributes ideas, everybody sort of has a hand in rejiggering things as we go. So I think hopefully we're able to take something and just kind of keep it moving. Our goal is always just to keep advancing the script at each stage. So like Jocelyn said, there's moments where you're like, oh no, this may have taken a step back. This got worse. We don't want to do that. We don't want to hurt anything. So then it's just a conversation and we keep building it together. But yeah, it's such a process.
It was just too bad I couldn't have been, because of the time difference. I just couldn't be in the room for the rewriting, because that would have been really fun. Yeah. And then, but never mind. It came out really well. And the funniest lines are your guys. I think it was Matt who came up with the rousing Doozer apology, the way that the architect did it with the jackhammer. That really made,
I was reminded of that watching it last night.
That was sorry.
I was reminded of that moment rewatching the episode last night.
Yeah, I had some, some poem he was going to say, some, sort of chant or something, but they just went right to it. It was so funny. But I really was pleased that the horns, in the world's oldest Fraggle, those horns that keep blaring, that was my idea, and I was really glad to see that.
That's great. Well, as we go through this episode, we will definitely try to call out who can claim which idea.
We were all in the service of the best idea. We were all in
100%.
the service of the best idea.
I will say that sometimes it is hard to remember, because the way the writers' rooms work, you sort of lose track of who said what and when, and it kind of does become this sort of just like organic thing where everybody's work becomes distilled into the final product. And some of that's just sort of saying like, humility, it wasn't me. But really, truthfully, it is the room. Each episode really is a product of the room in an awesome way.
Speaking of Fraggle writers, Jocelyn, I do want to ask you this, because his name came up, and he's obviously the most important person to the entire Fraggle Rock mythos. That's Jerry Jewell, who, of course, passed away several years ago. But did you feel his presence in the writing room? I'm sure it must have been weird to be back on Fraggle Rock and to not have him there with you.
That was weird, being back on it and without him there. But I think he would be loving it. I think we didn't do a writer's room, so it was a different process. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they ever really, no, not even on the Muppet Show. It wasn't really a writer's room in the same way that you guys do a writer's room. But yeah, Jerry, I did miss him a lot. But it's that whole idea of, the ethos being preserved. That would be something he would just be so pleased about. And so
I completely agree.
He's dancing around.
When I think about his writing, I really think about like really sort of complex and sophisticated ideas being presented to an all-age audience, but without any sort of nothing didactic or pedantic about it. It's really sort of, he never ever spoke down to the audience. And also it was sort of that hybrid of like really sophisticated high level ideas, but with like extreme silliness and just like never enough silliness. And I think that was the sort of mix we were trying to hit. And that made for a really fun room, because the writer's room would kind of weave back and forth between really serious conversations. I think a lot of the themes from the episode came from writers' personal experiences and personal stories and things that they'd really felt deeply. And then it's just making up gibberish, half the time, and making up chants and getting each other really laughing with some of the silliest stuff that, like, I think a lot of us didn't necessarily have a place for in some of the other half-hour comedies that we've worked on. There isn't always a spot, for floop, loop, and whoop and that kind of thing. And I think that it opened up people's minds, and I think was really satisfying.
I think I saw an episode of New Girl where they did floop, loop, and whoop. I don't know.
Yeah, it was, exactly. Partially shot.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into the episode itself. Our episode begins within Mokey's dream. She's dreaming about a giant talking radish who vomits a giant rainbow. All right, who wants to take credit for that one? Whose idea was that?
Rainbow vomiting is them. That was their idea.
I'm going to say this all day, but I remember the room. I really remember. I mean, the whole bit that we're trying to think of, just obviously absurd things that could only be taking place in a dream realm, and then Mokey not like understanding she's in a dream until she remembers that her hair was down. I mean, that was that was obviously the bit. But a floating radish vomiting a rainbow is something we can really only do on Fraggle Rock. So let's do it.
Yes, there you go.
That is true. So the giant radish warns her something big is going to happen. She wakes up at continuity. Her hair is down, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
And the Fraggle horn is blown because something big is going to happen. Boober reminds everyone, remember, big doesn't mean good. That's why you don't wish someone big morning. I thought that was a funny line. Who was that? Who's pointing?
I think that was Morin Wombella, wasn't it? Wasn't that more? I have Morin's voice.
Let's say it was. Yeah, I think we should give someone credit each joke, but it's like, yeah.
We're gonna falsely credit an individual writer with each joke. No, but I really do. For some reason I have Morin's voice in my head, and I'm so sorry if I'm wrong about that.
I want to just quickly sidebar a Jerry Jill story because it relates to this. There was a script I was working on with Jerry, and we'd have a notes meeting and blah blah blah, and then I went away and wrote it and came back, and he read this. But first of all, Jerry would always say something good about a script, even if he was telling you he loved the typeface you used. You did know you were in trouble if he complimented the paperclip, but other than that, but he also said, so he read the script and he said, "Oh my God, I really love that bit there. That was so funny." And I said, "Jerry, that was totally your idea." There we are.
Well, the line I pull out a lot is what Jim Henson famously said to Carol Spinney when they met, which was, "I like what you were trying to do." I find myself saying that more often than I probably should.
That's so Jim,
It's very Jim.
That's
Also,
the whole thing, though, right? It's like taking a step back. It's like, sure, what is the intent behind it? And there may not be, but I feel like that is like the starting place for trying to fix something, right? It's okay, so what are you trying to do here? I like what you're trying to do. I like the soul behind what you're doing. So let's just tweak it together.
Right.
So I think it's like, as a writer in a writer's room, a lot of it is sort of like letting go of the perfect thing that's in your head and then letting the essence of it or the soul of it be the pitch sometimes. And I think there, different writers' rooms run differently, but I think Matt and I were always in really supportive, positive rooms where that kind of led, the idea, okay, look, you may say something that's not right. It's not and what's going to be in the episode, but if it gets somebody else excited about an idea that then eventually gets in the episode, it's kind of just as good.
Yeah, totally.
So that's
just as important too.
Yeah, just as important
to get there.
Right. And like you say, it invites collaboration, which I feel like is the most important thing.
We've heard stories of writers where everyone's just so afraid because you're sitting there and you're trying to phrase the sort of pitch exactly right, and it needs to be fully formed and all that. And I was like, okay, well then why doesn't everyone just go off individually and write? I mean, if we're going to work together, let's not be afraid to sort of lob ideas in and then let somebody else pick it up and run with it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in this scene, everyone has been woken up in the middle of the night. So they're all wearing adorable Fraggle pajamas, which I also...
That was the whole thing, by the way.
That was Johnny's idea. That was definitely John Tartaglia's awareness of old costumes and things that he wanted to bring out. He's like, hey, whatever we do, there's going to be pajamas here. They have cute pajamas.
There were early conversations where it's like, they're going to be wearing winter clothes at some point, which we obviously did in a later episode. It's like, they've got to be in pajamas at some point. And I feel like Matt and I have always talked about this, where we love episodes, movies, whatever it is that sort of take place in one night. There's something really fun and satisfying about a one night adventure story. And they're just so cute in their pajamas. So let's put
I completely agree.
Three things together.
Well, next season you should do one all in one take. That's your challenge. Pull a 1917. Also, I appreciate that Wembley has a little doll of himself. I don't know if that's from the original series or not. That was great.
That's Bembley, right? I think.
Yeah, Bembley.
Yeah.
Was it? What's his name?
Bembley.
We ended up naming him Bembley, and I think we cut all of the scenes where he was interacting with Bembley, but there was more interaction with Bembley at one point. But that's where you're like, oh my goodness, we're working with the Henson Creature Shop, and they will just make the cutest and most sort of perfect Bembley doll on a moment's notice, and it's so fun to watch.
I love it. Give us those Bembley deleted scenes, Apple Plus. Apple TV Plus. So in this scene, we also re-meet the world's oldest Fraggle, which is the first time we've seen him in this season. Jocelyn, you must have written him a bunch of times the first time around.
Yeah.
Is he a fan favorite of yours?
He's well, yeah, he's pretty funny. It's also just a really interesting side of Dave Gold's, which
yes. Most sides of Dave Gold's are interesting.
but we changed his assistant, and Dave and I had a little bit of a discussion about that, because he used to love how the world's oldest Fraggle would clock his assistant and I just said, no, we can't. I hated it during the original Fraggle Rock, and I just thought, can't we change that? No, that's not. And his assistant now is a woman, is a female, and there's no way you can be hitting. No. So that was, and I think it's very funny, their interaction, particularly the moment at the very end where he says, is it the world's oldest Fraggle sees the Merggle Queen again, and he says, "Oh, I'm going to faint, catch me," and she ignores him. And he's fine. That made me laugh. Anyway, so
I'm with you. Yeah, like hitting Henchy in the head got old really quick in the original series, and
Dave loved it,
having Henchy as someone who she knows more than the world's oldest Fraggle.
Oh, yeah.
She's really on top of things. That there adds a whole new dynamic that wasn't there the first time around.
And it's a bit more 2021 or 22, isn't it, really?
Right.
Oh, totally. Well, obviously, yeah, like our whole sort of whatever, the way we think about interpersonal interactions, that kind of thing. We were obviously never going to have him hit her, and that it's not, it's not funny, and it's also not like what we want to portray. But what you're saying is really interesting, is that she actually knows a lot more than he does, which became really important in this episode, because in an episode where we're talking about reliable resources, facts, following actual reliable information, we needed a reliable sort of element to the world's. I mean, if world's oldest is presenting facts, he's obviously not the most reliable sort of narrator in that way. So Henchy stood in as someone who's actually we could actually trust with this sort of providing this information as being legitimate.
And that's like a perfect example too, I feel like, of another huge asset of Jocelyn's, which was, if we went to Dave Goals with we don't think that he should hit Henchy anymore. He might be like, what do you guys know? And it might become more of a thing. But Jocelyn, she has this gravitas coming from Jocelyn. He might want to take it more seriously.
I mean, we're all friends. We worked on, you're right. The relationship is really important. And I invented the other side of Boomer. I invented Sidebottom, still one of my favorite characters. And Dave and I did that together. That was, so it was, he fought, he didn't fight me, but he didn't think I was right, but I knew I was. So you're right. He took it from me. He might not have taken it from anybody else. I hadn't thought of that. Is that why you sent me in? No, kidding.
Yeah.
You're very good at delivering the tough news, the facts, as we'll say for the theme of this episode.
Exactly.
Yes. So the world's oldest Fraggle and Henchy are here to tell everybody that the Merggle Moon Migration is happening soon, according to the Fraggle Folio of Facts, which you guys should definitely publish as a real book. I would buy it.
I was actually just thinking that. I think that that's something that we should be, after a few seasons of the show, I do think the Fraggle Folio Facts should go out there, because the artwork, even just the artwork that you see in the Fraggle Folio Facts of this episode is awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if that were the sort of like the aesthetic of an actual book, it'd be a really fun kind of a collector item.
Who did that artwork? Because I know that style shows up a few times throughout the series. Is it just someone in the props department? Or?
It was definitely in the art department, and that wasn't Tyler himself drawing, though, was it? That our production designer Tyler Heron is an incredible artist, but I don't think that he himself drew that. We should find out, because whoever did draw it, you're right, their work appears throughout the series. But,
yeah, it's terrific. It's Barry Blueberry. I just remembered.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So Mokey correctly guesses that the Fraggles are all going to watch the migration. When she is correct, she starts chanting her name, Mokey, Mokey, which is cute. She's feeling very in tune with the universe, and she doesn't even need a map to get there, which is the first sign that's maybe she's not 100% right.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there. We have a cutaway here to Doc and Sprocket. Sprocket's howling at the moon. Doc has a drone that she's going to send off so they can watch the baby sea turtles hatching. And there's a moment where they're howling over their excitement and they are shushed by an off-screen Mrs. Schimmelfinny. Jocelyn, was this one of yours?
Mrs. Schimmelfinny. Well, we had Mr. Schimmelfinny in the original series, and Schimmelfinny was the name of this woman that used to look after my father when he was a kid. And I can't even know. Minnie was her, and I only knew her as Minnie, and then discovered that her name was Minnie Schimmelfinny. And it's exactly the kind of thing you say to Jerry Jewell. I said that to Jerry Jewell. That was it. Next thing we know, Doc's neighbor is Mr. Schimmelfinny.
Wow.
So that's where it came from.
We've heard multiple stories about where the name Schimmelfinny
All
comes
right,
from.
have you? Okay, well that's
yes, but that's the real one. That's not the story.
That's the real one.
There's not a doubt in my mind that you're telling the truth, but that's fascinating. We've been told falsehoods before about Schimmelfinny. I won't even get into it.
When they were guessing,
Could be able to clear that up.
They just didn't get it.
Wow,
Facts matter.
Facts matter.
You know, it's actually really cool that the Schimmelfinny was Mrs. Schimmelfinny, who became Mr. Schimmelfinny, is now back to Mrs. Schimmelfinny.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of that, but it was Mr. Schimmelfinny, and then I don't know who's Mrs. Schimmelfinny. I mean, Mr. Schimmelfinny was kind of old in those days, but you know, hey, maybe he married a young woman.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think she's this is where we get into the conversation about like what is the time structure that we're dealing with here. It's not the same sprocket or whatever. And I think that what we're dealing with is that, obviously the Fraggles sort of exist in their own.
You can never leave
on
the
their own
magic,
plane.
Alex. You can never leave the magic. It's fine.
Yeah, you can't leave the magic.
Yeah.
The more you try to look at it, the more you sort of diminish the magic of it. But I like to believe that there is sort of a spiritual connection between the original Mr. Schimmelfinny and this Mrs. Schimmelfinny,
Absolutely.
as there is between the original Sprocket and this Sprocket. One doesn't replace the other or negate the other.
No.
They exist sort of simultaneously, yet on different sort of lines.
I was really glad.
Diminishing the magic.
I was really glad to hear it there because he was always around for Doc, and it's really nice that she's around for the new Doc. I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that little bit of continuity, and really like it's a wink to the fans, which also there's a lot of that in this show. And it's very much noticed and appreciated by us, with us like also recognizing the fact that we're not the core audience for a Fraggle Rock show. So,
but you were.
It's nice to be heard. We were.
Yeah.
And we saw our audience, the core audience for the show, maybe not the core audience, but like that's
but just to say, where would we be right now if Johnny Tartaglia hadn't been a major Fraggle fan when he was a kid? I mean,
certainly not having this conversation.
Wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Anyway, I had to.
John, and I was going to say, like, the company, obviously Jocelyn, like, being one of the original writers, it really helped us tap into it. But John Tartaglia's knowledge of Fraggle Rock is such that he may as well have been in that original writer's room. I mean, he really does know everything about the show.
If Jocelyn was the teacher, Johnny was like the really annoying student in class who's like pointing out her mistakes sometimes. And, like, he knows the curriculum better than her just because he had that vantage point.
Yeah,
that's a serious. Did John ever actually you about Fraggle Rock facts? Did he ever try to correct you?
Me? You talking me?
Yeah, you. Yes, Jocelyn. Sorry. Yes.
No.
I feel like he might. I don't know. I wouldn't. That
Maybe,
sounds like something that would have happened.
If he would have, I would have.
Actually, Jocelyn. Yeah.
But he would have felt free to do that. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And similarly, he was incredibly helpful in some of the early conversations where we're kind of deciding, would a Fraggle do this? Would a Fraggle not do this? And Johnny was always pretty.
He is a Fraggle. He
is a Fraggle. Exactly.
He's really the essence checker. Come on, I'll share the title with him. But
no.
Don't talk yourself out of it.
There can only be one. Yeah.
Keep your title.
Johnny, I mean, how talented could anybody be? I mean, he's so talented too.
He does everything. That guy's
watching all the episodes. Yeah. And Jerry, just channeling Jerry Nelson, even when he sings. I mean, that takes doing, because Jerry.
Johnny is a force of nature. He's extraordinary.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay, a moment for me.
Yes, thank you, Johnny, for all you've done, for all you continue to do. And thank you, Jocelyn, for creating the Merggles who appear in this episode. So you wrote the first, I think the only Merggle episode from the original Fraggle Rock from season 5 called Beyond the Pond.
Beyond the Pond.
Was that an idea that you created back then, or was it like it came up, from Jerry Jewell or someone else, and you just kind of created the lore for the episode?
Well, it's like Alex and Matt were saying with them, ideas then didn't ever come sort of from one person. I think we were trying to figure out what kind of creatures could live in different elements in this environment. So it was a kind of ecosystem decision. I remember almost nothing about that original show, I have to tell you, except that it probably took, I had this way of writing shows that took really a long time to shoot. We'd be standing there at 4 o'clock on Saturday morning having shot. Anyway, there was one when the doozers were flooping, so we put the doozers on pogo sticks. Oh my God, it was really hard to shoot. And then the Merggles, I think, is also just having to use all the water and stuff. I mean, what we can do now, technically, oh my God, my mind is regularly blown by this new series. Just what you can do technically. When the Fraggles running across the Gorg's garden, oh my God, that whole thing in your show where they're underneath the bridge, and it's just,
that was incredible. But what's amazing is that still so much of it is practically built, like that bridge we're talking about in 113, the final episode of the season. That bridge was built. They built that bridge. And most of the time when you see the Fraggles in water or the Merggles in water, the water is real. So it's just about sort of hiding the puppeteer and finding the ways that they can actually.
Having been on set for this episode, Jocelyn, your episode, I was on set during the shooting of it, and you continue that legacy to this day. It was a very difficult lengthy episode to shoot.
Was it? I'm so pleased to hear that, Matt.
The rousing doozer apology, for example, not easy. So much.
He was on a jacket.
Yeah,
the doozers are not easy. I'm reminded as I rewatch the series how much I love them, and I think everyone needs to check back in with how much we love them, because making the show with them is next to impossible. So it is really good that they're so cute because they earn their keep. But whoa!
I remember one time when this doozer truck, we were because the doozers, those guys always had Tom Newby and Faz Fazakis. They always had some story going on with the doozers that we had nothing to do. We never knew what it was, right? But they had concocted this whole thing. But there was this, there's this one time where this doozer truck was just going along in the background, and it went off the set, and somebody dove to catch it, because if that doozer truck had smashed, it would have been thousands. They were intricate little things. So yeah, it was, they were nerve-wracking to shoot. Right. So what about the water stuff, Matt? Was that hard to do?
Yeah, this was more of a heavier, that whole song in the end with that so much of that actually ended up being a lot of post stuff, but no, it was very complicated and very J.J. Johnson directed this one, and he had a very specific choreography he wanted done, and it was tough. It was tough. It was a tough one for sure. The puppets had to be very strategically hidden, and they couldn't move a lot, which was challenging for the performers because they were kind of stuck in certain spots.
That's interesting to hear.
I thought I was definitely how is this ever going to work? And I was really pleasantly surprised with the final product.
I know JJ, so I wrote to him after I saw the episode, because what I really missed, again, I was saying writers being on the set, but also the meetings that would have happened before an episode with writers, performers, set designers, directors. Everybody would meet, and I don't. Did you guys have those meetings?
Yeah, we're a part of that. The way we wrote this season is the entire writers' room took place over 20 weeks before we even got into production, before we were up in Calgary shooting. So, but then Matt and I obviously stayed on for the entire thing. So yeah, we were part of these kind of meetings, production meetings and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's.
I missed that part of it. I said that to JJ. I just said I was sorry not to be able.
It was
talk to me.
It was pretty awesome. I was up there for a lot of it, and
It's
yeah,
amazing,
it's pretty
isn't it?
special.
And you get so many
It's
ideas.
just the greatest.
You get so many
Yeah.
ideas watching the puppeteers interact too. That I always,
Yeah, totally.
I always.
I mean, you think the Bembley thing, that we happened to write that one, but so many times it would just be the creature shop like coming up with something on their own and like putting it there, and it always plussed it.
That's right.
Well, the performers are all really amazing improvisers. So we have incredible improvisers on stage. We have an unbelievably committed art department who will just they'll pretty much make anything happen. And so I think there's the version of the show that's written, and there's the version of the show that's shot. And obviously they're deeply related, but there's so much life that comes into it on set. It's pretty incredible to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it's all about the collaboration. That's what makes such a great show.
Totally.
So whose idea was it to bring the Merggles back for this series? Because it's interesting that there's basically two new Fraggle offset species, the Fraggles, and I'm sorry, the Merggles and the Fraggles, but the Fraggles are brand new. The Merggles are from the old show.
I don't remember.
I was thinking about this because I anticipated you asking this question, and I wanted to have a good answer. No, but one of the first things we knew about the season is that we were going to use water as this physical metaphor to connect all of the worlds. So I think that really pretty soon in that conversation about water and how we wanted to tell stories about interdependence and resource management and all that stuff with water, Merggles were a really natural thing that came up. So I think it really was in the early conversations about it. And then when obviously we were in the room talking with Jocelyn, the excitement of using the Merggles and revisiting the Merggles started to take over, and this felt like a really natural spot for them.
And how lucky was it that Jocelyn happened to be the person to write the original series episode, Let the Water Run, which really started the whole Fraggle, Doozer, Gorg, silly creature dependence on water.
Did I write that one? Joe,
according to the Muppet Wiki, you did, yeah.
Oh, I wrote
surprise.
I remember when we discovered this, the original, the Jerry, Larry, we sort of that we realized that there was this connection, but one of the writers, David Young, had a lot to do with this whole idea too, because anyway, but it was a group idea like everything else on Fraggle, but it wasn't, we didn't create it. Again, we always say this too, we discovered it. It was already there. It was just waiting for us to see it. And I just love what this series has done to make it even more tangible, to see what and to be really straightforward about they take the water here and these people don't have it there. I mean, hello, we need people to get this kind of information. It's great.
Well, and expanding that interconnectivity where in the old Fraggle Rock there was really just 4 species: Fraggles, Doozers, Gorgs, silly creatures. And now we've got all the other.
Oh, we
Fraggles.
had the Ditsies, Joe.
Well, the Ditsies, that is true. I guess I'm thinking specifically about the water stuff, but yes, the Ditsies were reliant on the Fraggles as well. But now we've got all these subsects of Fraggles. We've got the Manticore over there. We've got these rock creatures. Like everyone is being affected by, in one way or another. I'm kind of excited to see, if the show gets a second season, how much further you're going to be able to take that idea. So putting a pin in that
hey,
one.
So are we.
Yeah.
I'm going to be really excited to see where Matt and Alex take that. Yeah.
We interrupt this podcast for a special postcard from our Uncle Traveling John Tartaglia and a Fraggle Fast Fact.
Today's Fraggle Fast Fact is Mokey looks different. Yes, Mokey had a makeover. If you are a fan of the original series, you've definitely noticed she looks a little different on Back to the Rock. And this is not the first time that's happened. In fact, if you watch the original series of Fraggle Rock, you'll see that in the middle of season 1, Gobo had a massive makeover, as did Ma Gorg, and Sprocket and the Trash Heap look completely different from the pilot throughout the rest of the series. So this has happened before, even on the Muppet Show. Miss Piggy and Fozzie Bear and Gonzo, all those characters got makeovers through the years. And the reason why is because, you want to, every season and every time you get the opportunity to dive back in, you get to look at how can we make things better? How can we make things feel fresher? And Mokey was a big topic of discussion. We had what's called the Fraggle Gaggle at the beginning of Back to the Rock production, where we gathered friends from the original series and those of us working on Back to the Rock, and we talked about big hopes and dreams for Back to the Rock. and something that came up quite quickly was rethinking Mokey a little bit. Mokey on the original series was meant to be older and bigger. That's why she had those live hands. And we decided we wanted this version of Mokey to be a little younger and a little bit more energetic and not feel so adult. We wanted her to be one of the kids and make her a little more relatable to kids watching today. So that wonderful robe that she wore originally and that kind of hippie look that she had, we wanted to kind of freshen that up. And Donna Kimball, who's Mokey's new performer, brings so much humor and so much energy to this Mokey. We wanted to match that in her look. But she's still, in touch with the creative vibes of the rock. She still loves meditation. She still is artistic and loves poetry, and all those things we love about Mokey are still there. She just feels a little bit more relatable. And if you look really closely, Mokey's original robe, her green robe, is still there. It's hanging in Mokey and Red's cave on the wall because we wanted to keep it there as a part of her. It will always be a part of her. And one more fun fact, Raleigh Cruson, who built Red and Wembley on the original series, found the original patterns for Mokey. And so the puppet itself, the head and the body, are the same patterns as the original. So Mokey's still there. Her soul is still there. It's still Mokey, just with a little bit of a new look. Anyway, back to the podcast.
So back to the episode. The Fraggle Five are running behind the rest of the group on their way to see the Merggles. Everyone wants to follow the map except for Mokey. She's dead set on following her gut, which is sending her directly into a black swirly blob called the Echo Chamber, according to Boober. I also appreciate that Red is really angry about the delay because she says she has to see the Merggle Moon Migration, a thing that she didn't know about until an hour ago, but will freak out if she doesn't see, which is so very Red. I loved it so much.
It's got the right amount of Red self-awareness, right?
Absolutely.
Listen, she's excited, and she'll admit that she wasn't excited 5 minutes ago, but now
that
she is.
doesn't
So let's
matter.
do it.
She's excited now. That's what counts.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Also heading in this direction are the Doozers. We have Cotterpin and the Architect, who are Cotterpin thinks because the water has been shifting, there might be new radishes down, some new cave. The Architect does not believe her. This is a whole nother situation about fact versus research versus new information. As we already discussed, Cotterpin has said that if she's wrong, she will give the Architect an RDA, a rousing doozer apology, which we'll see later on in the episode, which was, well, we could just talk about that now. The rousing doozer apology is hilarious and does, now that we've talked about it a little bit, does look a bit like he's flooping.
Yeah, it does.
Even though it's just a jackhammer. He's flooping all over again.
I hadn't thought of that.
I feel like its head might have popped off when they were trying to do
the
that.
heads were always
I'm
popping.
so
off.
happy
That's
to
the thing
hear.
with the Doozers.
Yeah.
They just, in the middle of a take, they start shaking and it almost looks like they're going to explode. Sometimes the head falls off. I mean, it's truly a nightmare, but it's so, they're so great. It's worth it.
Dirty
That
looks like
Doozer storyline I thought that was one of Tyler Herron, our production designers, just greatest sets. The bottoms of those radishes.
So beautiful.
Just like a piece of art.
And again, it doesn't look real. I'm shocked that you actually built it because it looks so good. There's no way it could be real.
And that was always the experience of looking at the shot set up on the monitor and thinking looks like a painting. It looks like a piece. I mean, it really does look like a sculpture. Each set was sort of had that level of detail. It was really, really incredible.
Absolutely. One other thing I wanted to mention about this Doozer storyline is that there's a bit where the Fraggles pass over the dangerous dip. And of course, it's just a very small dip to them, but it's dangerous for Doozers. And we see Doozer has gotten hurt and is being taken away by a Doozer ambulance. They tell this Doozer that, oh, don't worry, you'll be back to work in 2 to 3 minutes. And as she's being toted away, she goes, if I'm not constructing, who am I? That was great.
That's all it takes for a Doozer to have a real identity crisis. You have 2 minutes without work.
But I get it.
Inspired by one of my favorite scenes in the series Mad Men, which was when the guy, I forget the character's name, but it's played by one of the Joel Murray. He gets fired, and Don takes him out for one last night on the town before he's banished from the ad agency. And at the end of the episode, they put him in a taxi cab. He's drunk and he rolls down the window. And he's like, Don, if I don't go into that office every day, who am I? And that was always the inspiration for a doozer, not knowing what their identity would be without being able to work for 2 to 3 minutes.
Wow, yeah. The ad men of Mad Men are basically just giant doozers who drink and smoke.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Mokey finds herself in the echo chamber, which reminds me very much of the wrong way statues from Labyrinth that kind of warn Sarah and Hoggle that they're going the wrong way when they're really not, because they're basically just giant stone heads.
Yeah, it was kind of going into like, that's, I think about as dark as the series went as far as a set. And I think you're totally right to draw that comparison. I think it's sort of like going into the little more of the surreal, dark Henson space. But I loved that set. I think that set was one of my favorites of the series, particularly how it was used in the song. I thought their kind of rock face accompaniment was really cool.
And I also really appreciate the fact that as these giant stone creatures are repeating Mokey's thoughts back to her, it starts with them, whatever she's thinking, they're like, you're totally right, because she's saying they're wrong, and they go, they're wrong. And she says, I'm going the right way, and they go, right way. And she's like, doing the right thing. And it's so subtle how that shifts to a later scene where she starts saying that she's worried, and they're saying worried. She's like, I gotta get out of here. And they say, get out of here. And it's pretty scary. So well done on that. That was effective.
Well done noticing it. That's very
Well, it's so fun. I think the sort of like the mix of the super over, like hitting you over the head with it, and then the very subtle is something that Fraggle Rock can do really well that other shows can't do, where it's like, yeah, we're doing a show about echo chambers and we can call it an echo chamber. They go into an echo chamber, obviously not so subtle, but then, yeah, what actually happens in an echo chamber? It's validating things in a really positive way, but then when it starts to turn on you, what does that look like? And I think that's something that the show is able to do really subtly and also musically, which makes, I think, the lesson more interesting and the scene more interesting for sure.
Absolutely. And it's definitely like, again, you're not hitting us over the head with it. About, she's not saying, like, well, I'm obviously going the right way. And they're saying, well, you went the right way. It's like, well, you're not, because you're stuck. Like there's like she's still coming to those conclusions on her own. And then it's so interesting also how it ends with her utilizing that echo chamber to actually get help when she's stuck. She can, it's just like us on the internet, where like, well, we might read things that aren't true and accidentally believe them, but we can also use the internet to say like, well, I need help, or I need better information, I need better assets, I need my friends to come and help me, and we can help amplify through those tools.
Totally. I think that's exactly right. It's like anytime someone says, oh, the internet's a hellscape or whatever, it's like, well, no, it actually also amplifies really important and really positive things, and it can actually raise voices. But the danger is that you have to sort of be careful with where the information is coming from. I think when we first started the series, we put up a whole list of themes and topics that we wanted to get into. And this kind of idea of facts and sort of confirmation bias and media literacy was really big for us. I know like Matt was raised by a journalist and newspaper guy in the newspaper family, and I was way back in the day, I was a journalism major. My father-in-law is a journalist. I feel like we're that shift has been so extreme, I think, in our lifetimes, between sort of what is established fact and what is kind of up to interpretation. And I think there is a whole conversation that's to happen around it. And it's not one thing or the other. There's a lot of nuance in there. And I think Mokey was a perfect character to tell that story, because yeah, her intuition is important. She should follow her intuition sometime. It can't replace facts. It's not, but it's not truly one thing or the other. I think that there's just the conversation and the care has to happen.
And that was clear. I mean, we did a good job, you guys. That was good. Because I remember the discussions in the room. You don't want her to feel like, to abandon how she feels in favor of facts. I just really liked how that worked. It was great.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Why not pat ourselves on the back now and then?
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah, you deserve a pat or two. Yeah.
No, but again, back to what Alex was saying earlier about what you can do with Fraggle Rock. I just love the idea that an echo chamber is a place where the rocks talk. I mean, that's just because it's Fraggle Rock, so you can do that. I love that.
Yeah, I love it.
And it looked great.
It did. It looked really, really cool. Maybe you'll have a reason to go back there someday. I don't know.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that.
Yeah. Well, also like those puppets are already built. Like, are they just gonna like sit in a drawer
Yeah.
until they turn into dust?
That's a really good question. We could put hats on them and try to use them in a different sequence. Like,
Pretty sure that set was repurposed into I can't remember what, but it was reused at this point.
Yeah, did that become the museum set?
Maybe that was it. Yeah.
There's a couple of sets that are unrecognizable from one scene to the other, but were reused, and it's
sure. Yeah.
Again, just a credit to the art department, what they're able to do. It's incredible.
I'm sure that happened on the old show as well. There's only so many rocks out in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we also used those ultimate tunnels and all that kind of thing at the time.
Oh, sure. Yeah. You use more fake sets than the new show does.
Oh yeah, no, well, we didn't. Yeah, well, we didn't have. I mean, I heard the kind of space these guys had. Oh my God! And we didn't have that. And yeah, and I know Jim was a tech freak, as you probably know, and so I remember him just loving trying to figure out how would Gobo running down these virtual tunnels, because at that time you didn't do that much, right? And so he really liked doing that. I mean, also that we used it a bit in the Gorgon's Garden. Was now, how do you guys do that with the little Fraggles jumping around and how do they do that?
It's actually incredible. I mean, so we had an entire blue box built. So we have just a fully all encompassing blue box where the performers dressed in blue can completely manipulate their puppets as puppeteers, and then that puppet can be put into the Gorgon's Garden.
Because it's great.
But that's one of the few times that sort of, I mean, we did that when they were standing on the top of a rock about to dive. We did that in the Gorgon's Garden, but for the most part, because our sets were so giant, a lot of the magic had to do with, a puppet disappearing behind something and then a new puppet popping up on the other side and making it look seamless. It was more of that kind of, sleight of hand magic trick that was used. But we obviously had the ability to do incredible CG and use it really sparingly in spots where I don't think
that's amazing. But also it was based on puppetry. It wasn't like
they're all puppeted for sure. They're all I think only maybe 2 or 3 sequences that are you could call animated. Right. And they're never used for long. It may be just used to get read. I remembered Hip Hip Hooray, I think in 102, there's a sequence where she sort of jumps up onto a rock with a little bit of a flip. And part of that is blue screen, blue box puppetry, and then part of it is CG animated. But that's really one of the few times I can think of that was actually used.
Did you guys learn a lot about puppets?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
To go from 0 to like 3 or whatever we are now. Yeah,
totally. My God. And they're so good. It's good puppetry. That's what's so satisfying too, is to kids seeing really good puppetry like that. There was a comment from one kid whose mother wrote in and said that the kid said, it was so weird, I couldn't stop watching
it. I love that. That's a great compliment.
That's a good question for Matt and Alex. Like, were there times where you wrote something where later on someone had to say, technically you forgot, like they're puppets, we can't do that?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. All the time. Absolutely.
I mean, the pilot, I feel like we wrote the pilot as if it was animated, and no one told us until very close what was actually going to be achievable.
Oh yeah, I mean, and even going on, because there was, we were talking about 113, the finale. Like there was even that I think we wrote the initial dream sequence that Gobo's having with all of the characters holding hands in sort of like a daisy chain of Fraggles, and even at 113, we're still kind of learning, okay, that can't be done. But actually, what can be done, because incredible magic can happen, is that Junior Gorg can hold on to Gobo's hand, and as long as you have one side of the frame that you can work with, pretty much anything can happen. But it was, I think, just tweaking our scope a little bit sometimes, because like Matt said, our first job together was on an animated show where truly the sky was the limit. We had cold opens that took place on the moon, and it's just like, all right, do whatever you want to do. And I think we did have to kind of adjust ourselves from there. But I think in a cool way, what opens up is this whole new world once you actually start thinking in the puppet space. That's actually kind of more impressive because it's tactile and physical and right there in front of you. And it really is that the power of illusion being used instead of just sort of like, hey, throw whatever you want against the wall.
Well, and that goes both ways. If you want to write something that's completely fantastical and maybe it's a little bit too big, but then I'm sure you've also come across the challenges of like a simple thing where maybe you write where, Wembley picks up a banana and it's like, well, we have to figure out how Wembley's actually he doesn't have real hands. So like,
Totally.
it's a little bit more. I mean,
Yeah.
I assume you came up on some of those roadblocks as well.
Yeah, the solution there would be like Wembley's not picking up a banana.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Or it's like it's sewn to his hand and he has the banana the entire scene. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like transferring objects. I remember we did, is that 104 and we did Pop and Bop.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they're playing this game, Pop and Bop, which is sort of like hacky sack, and we with a gourd, with a little gourd, and them kicking this gourd around. I mean, the gourd had to be on the end of a pole. They had to lift the pole and move the gourd from place to place, and then we had to paint it out later. But I mean, that's an example of a very simple thing that was incredibly difficult, and you're kind of constantly doing that sort of accounting of like, all right, is this worth it, or this is going to take half a day? Do we want it? And sometimes the answer is yes, we want it because it's silly and it's great. And sometimes it's like, no, it's not worth it.
Right. Well, and Fraggle Rock is supposed to be, there's like fantastical things that are happening. You don't want it to be too grounded. That's a hard, tricky line to balance on.
No, we don't want to do like August Osage County and just have like characters sitting around talking. And although I'm this, like, you got to get pretty silly and physical with it.
Although I would always
totally. I think we should do
for season 2. We'll get a season 2. It would come down to really coming up on right before the shoot, we were still working it out with the line producer and the AD, like what we could actually shoot in the time we had, because you still only had about, how many days did we have? We did them in blocks, but
we had 5 plus, sort of 6 days an episode. And ultimately, we were always shooting 3 or 4 episodes at a time because we were block shots. So if you could say like, oh, we're doing the first few episodes at a time, all the scenes that were taking place at the Fraggle Pond, we would do in 1 or 2 days because the setup is there. It's just more efficient. But it means you're juggling all these different storylines at the same time. And like Matt said, sometimes it came down to sort of looking. The crew is incredible. They can break down how long each thing is going to take to shoot. And you're looking at days and you're just saying, we can't physically do it all today. So there's a lot of rewriting.
Especially the songs were always a huge chunk of time. Huge. Those music videos basically for any, and it was always 2 songs.
So you're kind of rewriting up to the very minute that you're shooting because you're just trying to make the schedule work. And there's just
which I think can be fun though too, because a lot of time, I mean, you lose stuff, you lose your babies, but then you're coming up with new stuff altogether. And sometimes you come up with, I'm trying to think of an example of, I'm sure there are a million of them where we had to lose something, but because of that, we came up with something sillier and became more of a favorite.
That's the crash course version of what we were talking about earlier. It's like when you're in the writer's room, you can't really get too precious about your ideas because ultimately you might 6 months later be in a position where you're like, we got to cut this whole page because we got to shoot and we are out of time. And it's like, okay, one way or another, the little sort of preciousness has to be like sort of let go of. And it's actually so much better because then what you open up is the sort of collaboration and everybody, it becomes all of us. And that's obviously the whole theme of the series. So to be able to sort of live it as you're making it is satisfying.
It's literally the title of an episode.
It's literally the title of an episode.
It's right there.
Nobody was precious though. Nobody was precious. I didn't.
No, nobody. It's really true.
But it was kind of interesting to me because working with a lot of people new to this, new to working with puppets. I mean, the writer's room, the composition of the writer's room was very much like the way we approached the writers on the original series. A poet, a playwright, a novelist, and Charlie and I were the only 2 in the room that really had done kids TV, weren't we?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You were the only 2 that had actual kids TV experience. The rest was a combination of really comedy people, comedians, playwright. It was a really diverse room in all sorts of ways, and certainly in writing experience and perspective.
It's great.
And I mean, I've always heard, it's easy to teach writers and comedians and such to write for kids. It's harder to get people who know kids entertainment to be funny. You can't teach humor. So it sounds like, I mean, having such a diverse writers room was like the way to go for a show like this.
I've only ever written for kids, and I've written a couple funny lines now and then.
You're one of the
funny.
lucky ones that you were already funny when you started.
You were born that way.
All right, moving on before I embarrass myself.
Yeah.
So next up, the Fraggles make it to the Merggle Moon Migration, and they missed it. They missed the whole thing. There was supposed to be a big dance. I'm sure it looked great off camera.
That was actually
that was intentional.
Really smart of us.
Yeah.
We didn't have to do it.
I think that we talked about that. We were like, we can't shoot.
No, you won't be able to. You didn't.
Well, we ended up shooting like a really complicated one later, but if we had shot the main event, I mean,
you know what would have been funny is if like you come in just as the song is at your last two notes of the song, and you see all the Fraggles and they've just finished the big dance. They're all out of breath, like at the end of a Broadway show, like their arms in the air. Yeah. Well, they're all sad, obviously, and Boobers tells Mokey, don't worry, doom is inevitable, so all this is ultimately meaningless. And that's where the episode ends. No, that's not.
Yeah.
And cut.
Mokey gets a feeling that something else is going to happen, and she's right, because usually when all the Fraggles leave, they miss out on what comes after the big Merggle dance, which is a birth of a new generation of Merggles. We get to see baby Merggles, which is pretty exciting. No Fraggle has seen it before. No silly creature has seen it before. Now we all have.
That's it.
So, Jocelyn, I have to ask you, because there's been some debate in the fan community about how Fraggles are born. Some believe that they are hatched. Here we see maybe they're born. Some of them are born in bubbles in the lagoon. Is there anything official about where baby Fraggles come from, without getting too graphic about it?
No, I have no idea. But
no, tell them what you told us the first time behind closed doors. All right, listen, this is what happens. No.
Yeah, Merggles that felt different to me, because they're slightly, their sea creatures are slightly different. But I think it was Karen Prell had this whole idea of how Fraggles actually with with drawings and illustrations and everything. And I think Jerry, Jewel, and Larry looked at it and went, yeah, okay. Now we decided
I love what you were trying to do.
Yeah, you love what you tried to do. Exactly.
Right.
We could do death, we can do war, we can do but birth. No, I think we need to stay.
But I think it's like Fraggles don't have a traditional family structure. Obviously, it's like it's really important that they don't have parents for reasons where it's like they're not kids exactly.
No, and they don't have birthdays. Birthdays whenever they decide.
Like they invent birthdays whenever they want. I mean, I do think there is something kind of gets into what I was saying earlier, this sort of like hippie way about time and like what is time. But yeah, I mean, the Fraggles don't really have an age. I think they exist on this plane where their experiences accumulate. I think that they go through experiences and emerge from them slightly changed. And we love doing stories about growth, but they're not adolescents. They're not kids. They're not adults. They're kind of like their structure of responsibility is totally outside of the mainstream in that way. And we know that they have uncles, or at least some of them do, and aunts and uncles. And that's something that we can explore more. But yeah, as far as their actual sort of birth and early development, I think that it's important that we sort of leave some of that out of it. I think that's kind of what is special about the Fraggles.
Yeah, do you think
makes sense?
It contributes to the sort of they appeal across the board to little kids, medium-sized kids, grown-ups. I think that might be. I've never thought about that before, Alex. Thank you for that.
Hey, anytime.
I think you've been thinking about this.
The second my eyes open in the morning, the Fraggles, no, parents.
This is also the kind of thing that like we think about as fans, where when we have not had any Fraggle content for decades. So when all we have is these 96 episodes to revisit over and over again, and then when you get a question and you're like, well, I'm just gonna have to think about that for my entire life, knowing that no one will ever answer these questions. So I had to ask.
It's funny. It could feel a little self-important when you put it this way, but I remember we had early conversations before we even got into the breaking of the stories for last season, where we had a big Fraggle gaggle, and there were people from the original the original designers, and Larry Merkin was there, and original performers. And then we also just had, an incredible poet and writer named Kwame Alexander who was on, and we were just talking about the nature of storytelling and philosophy and all of that. And I think Dave Goles was like, we really approached it like literature, and not to get all sort of that sounds very self-serious, but like you're saying, like, sometimes you read a book and not all the answers are there. And you do have to sort of keep thinking about it, and you do get to put yourself into it. You get to think about what you want to take out of that, and that's just as valid as what someone else may want to take out of it. I think, unlike a lot of the TV development that Matt and I have gone through, where you really, like, from the moment you're like, who am I? What exactly do I want? Where do I come from? What are my problems? And you just know everything. And it's so over the top, like the amount of information that just kind of reduces people, takes people's humanity away. I feel like there's something about Fraggle Rock that gets to exist in this soup that is constantly being discovered. Jocelyn used that word earlier, discovery. It's like, we're not creating it, we are discovering it because it's all out there. But because it's all out there, that means there's always more. And yeah.
That's terrific. That's fun. It's fun. It's
fun. It's really
bottomless
much more
well
fun
of Fraggle stuff, Fraggle lore
really
that you
fun.
can continue to create.
Totally.
So this episode ends with the Merggle Queen singing the classic Fraggle Rock song "Shine on Us Now" by the great Balsam Lee. First of all, I'm so grateful. I've been saying this over and over again. I'm so grateful that you're using classic songs from the old show here in the new Back to the Rock. I adore all of those songs, and it's a crime that, first of all, they're not better well known, and second of all, that we don't have official releases of most of them. So now that you're getting to re-record some of these and give new meaning to a lot of them as well is really special for us old-time fans.
But the new composer and lyricist, they've done a really good job, I think. The guys who are writing the original song.
Yeah, that's Harvey Mason Jr., who's really sort of a genius in his own way, and his team is incredible. And they're obviously tasked with writing new music and with rearranging the originals. And I felt the same way about the originals, and that there's so many amazing songs that nobody knows, and not nobody, but like very few people know. So it's like, what an opportunity
to get to. And bring in a star like Patti LaBelle. It's just like, yeah. She also, I feel like you were on that report, Alex, and she kind of just like nail it in one take. And she's like,
in her like home studio, she's basically standing in her living room with a really good microphone, and she just kind of walks in cold and nails it. And it's like, okay, well, that's
she's like, don't worry, I'm gonna put in some. Did she say like Pattyisms or something like that?
Like some Pattyisms in it. And that's the the little thing. Obviously, there's so much just like musical interpretation there that nobody gave her. She just did. And it's pretty.
What a joy! Oh, she's so talented. She's so great, and what a treat for us to see her. Because you all know, like, Fraggle Rock never worked with celebrities before, so the fact that you're able to integrate them a little bit more seamlessly and have someone like Patti LaBelle fit into the universe, as opposed to, not to knock what they did, but the series of Fraggle shorts, the Fraggle Rock On shorts, where they're literally talking to celebrities, felt a little less natural. It was interesting, don't get me wrong, but here, with the exception of the Dave Grohl cameo, which actually worked really well, we get these celebrity voices, we get people playing in the Fraggle Rock sandbox, and then you end up with someone like Patti LaBelle singing a classic Fraggle song, which, like, I'm not going to say no to. That's great.
I totally agree. And that was the kind of rule we gave ourselves. It's like, okay, well, the Fraggles don't interact with silly creatures for the most part. If they do, it's going to be really special, and not now. We're not going to do it. It's like, I think in the original, there was one scene, it was at the very end, where Gobo interacted with Doc, and it's like, yeah, we're not just going to do that. But if we can, in a non-distracting way, get some incredible voice talent into, bring some of these old songs back to life, hey, let's do it. It all feels like part of the celebration, obviously. And then the Foo Fighters stuff, that was Uncle Traveling Matt is our way out into the world. So he was interacting with them in a way that I think that's something we could do again, with interaction, with kind of celebrity interaction, if that's something we wanted to do again, but only in that context.
Right. Yes.
And of course, he never knows who he's talking to anyway. So it's like, they're not celebrities to him.
John Tartaglia, just anytime we were breaking these stories, he'd be like, I know exactly what song would fit this moment. He's just an encyclopedia of these songs. And the album that's on Spotify, I believe, of the new songs reinterpret, it's so good. We'll play it in my car all the time. My kids love it.
Yeah, they're great. Great. All the songs are just terrific. I mean, and music's always been so important to Fraggle Rock. So I'm glad you gave it the importance that it deserved. So now that the three of you have revisited this episode, do you have any final thoughts about it? Any other special memories you want to share?
I'm really glad we did it. I was thinking about it. I'm constantly just on Facebook. I just have friends throughout my life, and there's so many reposting of these articles. You're like, well, this is not a website. This is not real. And it's just like, it's a very, like Alex mentioned, my dad was a newspaper reporter. And so I grew up in a house with newspapers, and just see the deterioration of the trust that people have in the mainstream media is so enraging to me. And just, it's just such a mess. And like Alex said, I think we're going to have to be teaching this sort of media literacy moving forward. And if that message came across in this episode in just a fun little way, then it feels really worth it to me.
Totally. And I just was pleased as heck that you asked me to write it. That was all.
We were lucky to get you.
Yeah,
we
were really, really, really fortunate. And I feel
sorry, Alex, didn't somebody say that they wanted didn't one of you guys tell me that somebody said that he really wanted his local government to watch that?
Yeah,
there was a review that, right?
Yeah, we did the sort of like, junket day when the show first came out. We were talking to, so I apologize for not remembering who it was, but it was, the kind of thing
you were like,
talking to. Yeah, you're talking like 100 people over 3 hours or whatever. And there was, but somebody was saying, I really want my local government to watch this, because I don't know. I think that's what I'm sort of proud of in the episode, is that it presents sort of a nuanced idea, which is that, yes, like facts matter and the source of the facts matter, but also there needs to be room for new research to update. We can't get stuck. There's no such thing as sort of the final answer for things. We need to be able to evolve. But we also need to be really careful about that balance of what information is actually legitimate, and what new perspectives and new information is actually legitimate to add to that conversation. So I think that in our own Fraggly way, we were able to talk about that, which was, I think, pretty satisfying. And
I just also like to shout out to Donna, because I thought her performance was brilliant.
She's incredible.
It was great.
Donna's amazing.
She has a way of making Mokey so funny, but at the same time grounded. It was a really nice, good performance. She was the right character for that idea.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all so much for helping to continue the legacy of Fraggle Rock, making the world a better place. Thank you for joining me. Alex Cuthbertson and Matt Fusfeld, you guys are terrific. Thank you for bringing Fraggle Rock back into our lives. And Jocelyn Stevenson, this has been such a treat. You're a legend in our circles, and not only for all the work you've done with the original Fraggle Rock, but the fact that you get to bring that gravitas to the new series, it really shows. So
thank you.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks all of you for being here. That brings us to the end of another podcast, but stay tuned as Tough Pig's own Beth Cook talks more about the themes of this episode in our Dive Deeper segment coming up next.
Welcome to Dig Deeper. This is Beth Cook, and I am joined once again by executive producer and president of television at the Jim Henson Company, Hallie Stanford. We are talking about episode 3, the Merggle Moon Migration. Just when I think that the lessons of the reboot can't get any more timely and appropriate for the 21st century.
Right? Well, I absolutely. And, I can't say we're like exactly who on the show was like, we have got to really manifest the echo chamber that we all see out in the world, specifically in social media and the internet. But I'm going to guess that probably Alex Cuthbertson and Matt Fusfeld were the ones that are like, yes, let's do fake news. Let's do echo chambers. The political and the social media landscape, and reflect it back in Fraggle Rock in a really funky way, where we see one of our characters really going along with something that just without any facts or evidence and getting themselves in a lot of trouble. And, you know, it would seem that we would pick one of the other characters, right? Let's do Boober or Gobo or Wembley. No, we were like, let's do the one person that you actually wouldn't expect to not be in touch with what's really happening. Let's do Mokey. And I think it really worked.
I thought that was brilliant. To me, it made a lot of sense that because Mokey was so in touch with her intuition, that she saw that as just as important, if not more so, than the facts that the others had and were trying to share with her.
Yeah, exactly. And so then, you know, as we've done in Fraggle Rock, you've seen in the other episodes, we actually wanted to do a visual representation of the echo chamber. So you see her going into this area where actually the rocks themselves are echoing back, and it gets scarier and scarier and scarier. But in the beginning, they're validating everything she's saying. She's like, oh, I'm a genius. I love this one moment where she's like, I could paint in here. You know, like she thinks this is fantastic. But what she soon learns is she's all alone. She's put herself in danger, and she really should have listened and followed the map. So we actually wanted to show something physical. Like, this is the map. This is the information that will help you get from A to Z. And she ignored it. And so she does need her friends to rescue her. And luckily, there is good results from that. But it was really important to show that this adventure did not go well, and that her friends didn't follow her. We didn't have her get them in danger, right? She got herself in danger. She went forward without them. And then, of course, they go for her and they help her. But that was also important, that she had to have her own journey to learn this information. And I think that everybody has to go on their own journey of facts versus beliefs, right? And I think everybody is going through their own journey right now. You can think of it regarding the pandemic and the vaccination, and you can look at it from politics and everything happening in the schools. And some people think one thing about critical race theory, and another group thinks another. And so we all have to just start reading and educating ourselves on real information. But I do want to say about, in the end, there is something to intuition, right? Like you do, like sometimes you do have a feeling about something. And I hope that the message isn't confusing to families at the end, but we did want Mokey to have a win. And so that her intuition does manifest itself a little bit in that because of her taking this journey, she is rewarded. And she does get to see something that nobody's ever seen before, which is the birth of a new Merggle generation, and getting to hear the Queen of the Merggles sung by Patty sing an amazing song. So anyway, she does get rewarded for it. So I kind of love that too. And like I said, I hope it wasn't confusing, but thought it was important to also say, sometimes you do have to trust your gut a little bit.
Me too. I really loved that quote. There's a time for feeling and a time for facts.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I
think I probably gave that note. Like, you're gonna need a line in there that explains it. So there you go.
Wonderful. And I really appreciated the B-plot of Cuthbertson and the chief architect discovering that new information can lead to new facts, and the facts can change.
Yeah, I love that too. I love that, like, she has this mentor and teacher who actually is like, no, I know what that area is. And she's like, no, I know too. And I need you to believe me. I need you to listen to me. And that was a very tricky balance in the writing as well, because you didn't want it to come off as condescending or sexist or ageist. But I think we did a good job with it. And I love that the architect in the end has to give her a rousing doozer apology. And he's happy to do it. You know, like he owns it. That's what we said, like, you know, own it. If you want to apologize, then you got to own it. So definitely characters own it in Fraggle Rock when they say they're sorry. But yeah, so she discovers something new, and that's a very important discovery, right? So just telling, I love that too, because for Cuthbertson, because I feel like she does represent this like modern child. You know, she's like the tech child, the digital native. Like she's saying, we're saying to them, you can make discoveries. You are inventors, you are scientists, you are engineers, and you may discover something that nobody else has seen. Do not be afraid to go out there and tell them what you found, And even when they say, I don't believe you, believe in yourself. She believed in herself. She could have very easily been like, oh, okay, I don't want to rock the boat, the Doozer boat. But she stood up for herself, and they listened to her and then made a great discovery.
Fraggle Talk, the unofficial Fraggle Rock podcast, is brought to you by toughpigs.com. Produced, written, and hosted by Joe Hennis. Fraggle Fast Fact segment presented by special guest John Tartaglia. Dig Deeper segment hosted by Beth Cook with special guest Hallie Stanford. Fraggle Talk art by Dave Hulteen Jr. The Fraggle Rock mark and logo, characters, and elements are trademarks of the Jim Henson Company, all rights reserved. Fraggle Rock theme song, written by Philip Balsam and Dennis Lee, is used with permission. Special thanks to the Jim Henson Company, Apple TV Plus, and the entire Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock family. For more from Tough Pigs, please find us at Tough Pigs on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time down at Fraggle Talk.